Today I'm going to show you how to make a composite photograph with a picture of a flower and a picture of a fern. If you haven't downloaded them from my website, please go and save them to your folder, and then you can open them both at the same time. You can do this by dragging a box so that both of them are selected, or by clicking one and holding Shift and clicking the other. They're both selected. I'm going to open them both in Photoshop, and they're open in two different tabs. What I'm going to start with is the flower. Now I want to make a selection around the flower, and I'm going to take the flower and put it inside of this fern picture. I'm going to get rid of all the background behind the flower. In order to do that, I'm going to use the magnetic lasso tool. If your toolbar looks like this, it's probably 1, 2, 3, the third one down, and out from there, the third one, the magnetic lasso. And we've used the magnetic lasso before. All you need to do when you use it is remember where you began. I'm going to start right here. I clicked and let go, and now if I just drag around, I'm going to do a pretty reasonable job picking out this flower. I'm going to intentionally make some mistakes so that you can see how I'm going to fix those mistakes later. But you're trying to go all the way around the flower, doing the best job you can selecting it. And when you get back to the beginning, double click. And now I've got the selection made. You're going to use the Quick Mask tool. The Quick Mask mode is right there at the bottom of your toolbar. I had to expand my toolbar out because mine is kind of small, my screen's kind of small, but it's at the very bottom, right there. It looks like a rectangle with a circle inside of it. That will put you in Quick Mask mode, and you can see, I'm going to double up my toolbar so you can see it again. You can see that if you hover over it, it says Edit in Quick Mask mode. When I click this, it turns everything outside of my selected area red, and everything inside of my selected area stays not red. What I'm going to use here is I'm going to somehow turn this red spot to not red, and turn this clear spot to red. Quick Mask lets me refine a selection by going into this mode and using actually the paintbrush. So if you haven't seen the paintbrush in a while, it is right there above the clone stamp, right below the spot healing brush. There's my paintbrush, brush tool. And you can set up your paintbrush however you think is best. When I've done this in the past, I've wanted my brush size kind of small, like 9 or 10. Works pretty well. And I've wanted the hardness up to 100. What do I mean when I talk about the hardness? If you look at just a blank page, and you have a brush, and you have the hardness set to 100, you see how it's not very fuzzy. If you set the hardness to 0, you see how it's very fuzzy. The hardness set to 100, excuse me, the hardness set to 0. That's the difference right there. So when you do the selection with the brush tool, you want your hardness actually set at 100 so that the edges are very firm. You don't want to have fuzzy edges. So I'm going to set my brush size to about 10. And you may have a preference to set it larger. You may set it to like 30. But I'm setting mine to 10 or 20, whatever. Let's set it to 15. Nice compromise. And the black and white paint is what I'm going to use here. Black paint is what's currently selected. White paint is in the background. Black paint is actually going to add to the red. So if I scrub over this with black paint, you'll see that it adds to my red. And there it is. So what does that do to my selection? Well, let me pull it back out of Quick Mask. So it changes my selection. Push it back into Quick Mask, and I'm going to use this little tiny arrow right here to flip between black and white. And now I'm going to use white to refine it even more. And you can actually stop right here and see I'm doing a pretty good job of making sure my selection is exactly how I want it. This is going to come in handy when you do a project where you cut out a picture of yourself and put you in a new location. I'm going to pause my video for just a moment and I'm going to kind of go around the edge of my picture and I'm going to find the places where I need to fix it with black and white paint. So it's going to take a minute. It's a little tedious and I'm just going to pause the video because I don't necessarily feel like you need to watch every inch of this happen. But I will show you the result in just a moment. So I've gone around the edges and I've gotten it just about how I want it. And once that happens, I'll take it back out of quick mask mode and back into standard mode. My selection is just about as perfect as I can get it. You see when I go around the edges that my selection is just where I want it. And that means it's ready to move. So I'm going to take my move tool. And again, if your toolbar is a single row, it's the top tool on the toolbar. And with the move tool, I'm going to click and drag, but I'm not going to let go of my mouse button. So I'm keeping my finger down on the mouse button and I'm going to click it and drag it. In just a moment, I'll show you. You see where it says the word fern right up there. I'm going to click this and drag it to the word fern and just hold it there. And when I do that, it flips between the two images. I still have not let go of my mouse button. Now I need to drag this down and drop it right there before I let go. That puts it on its own layer right here, on top of my background layer. Make sure that's on its own layer. Finally, I'm going to put a shadow behind it. So I'm going to go to my layer tab up here, and I am going to go to layer style. There's a couple different ways to accomplish this. This is the easiest one to find. And in the layer style, in the layer style, I'm going to go with a drop shadow. The drop shadow, I'm going to move the box off to the side. Lets you put a few settings in there. So if you move this back and forth, you can see what it does. The opacity, darker, lighter, the distance. Here, let me pull the opacity up so you can tell. The spread, the size. You can make the selections that you think are appropriate. In my lesson that I have, it says to put the mode to multiply. It says to put the opacity to 39, which is oddly specific, but 39, so it is. Oh my gosh. It says to put the distance and the spread both to 21. So let's see what happens there. 21, 21, and the size they want at 65. So, gosh. So that, okay, tells me I've done the drop shadow. If you want to see what it looks like before and after, you can click this little eyeball. No shadow, shadow. And if you'd like to flatten that out so that you don't have it on two different layers, you, of course, can get a layer and pull it down to the bottom and tell it to flatten the image. And that's it for that one. You got the flower, you got the fern, you put two pictures together. Congratulations.